What's going on, guys? Teen Mechanic here. So today's just going to be a very simple video. I'm going to show you guys how to replace your alternator. Sorry if there's any wind noise, but this truck here, my F-150, 04 F-150, the alternator is bad. Someone test drove it the other day and it died. I'll have another video in the future at some point soon showing how to test it and determining if it's bad or not. I've done a video like this before, although I'm not super proud of it. So it's just going to be how to replace it today. If you're interested in seeing what happens with the Monaco, I have some parts on order for that, so stay tuned. This is kind of just a filler video, something I got to do anyway, may as well record it, but stay tuned if you want to see stuff about that. But this here should be super easy to do. Very few tools are required. This is actually a super easy thing to do, so this is kind of going to be a speed run. Okay guys, so here's the new alternator right here. This is what it looks like. It spins, generates electricity. I'm not going to really go over that because most of us already know what an alternator is and does and looks like, but the rotation from the engine spins this pulley, generates some electricity, and the regulator, or the rectifiers in this alternator, convert it from AC to DC current. So very easy. But anyway, now let's go ahead and just get into replacing it. So apologies if there's any wind noise. There really is a lot of wind today. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, remove this air filter here. This is an F-150, so differs a little bit per vehicle. There's some that are buried way down in the engine compartment. Some of them are right up top, and some of them are kind of in between, like this one. So once you have that out, we're going to pull the intake off. Then I'm going to use a 3/8 ratchet, and this is a 10mm socket. Just going to go ahead and take the air box off. So these bolts really only need breaking loose. Hopefully you can still see this. These only really need to be broken loose. So once you have all 4 bolts out, this lifts right off of the intake manifold here. Now there are a couple connections you have to undo before you take it off. So there's this quick disconnect. You just push this little green thing down and over to the side, and then this pulls right off. Super easy to do. That's your PCV system. And right here is a sensor. Looks like some kind of mass airflow sensor. I assume that's what that is. Then this should just just take this little clip that holds this wiring harness on. You can pull this off. Actually, it fell off, so good enough. Now lift it. Try not to get anything in your intake manifold. That would suck. There you go. So this came right off. Now what you want to do is, if you have a rag, go ahead and stuff it right in your intake manifold there. I don't have one, and it's not really the end of the world for me, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay, so right down here's the alternator. I hope you can see it. This here is the coolant hose. Be careful of that. Try not to take that off if you really don't have to. So here you have your main... oh wow, I cannot believe I forgot to do that. You have to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery before you start taking connectors off. In my case, the battery's completely disconnected, so that is safe. Make sure you disconnect the negative one, because if you disconnect the positive one and accidentally ground it out, then you're grounding the entire electrical system and could cause a short. So this terminal pulls right off. Super simple to do. Now if you can't get to the one that's right in behind here, what you can actually do is just go ahead and start unbolting the alternator itself. So with this alternator, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on top, and then 2 more down below. So you've got 6 bolts in total. Now if you have a breaker bar for this step, use it, but if not, just like me, I just lost it. So use this. This is a 1/2 inch ratchet. Find your belt tensioner down here. There should be a 1/2 inch slot just to put it in. I'm not really being super close up, so my apologies, but it's easy to do. Once you've found it, just press down on the belt and it comes free. Now before you go ahead and take this belt off, if you want to take note of your belt routing diagram, if you don't have a sticker in your engine bay that talks about the belt route, take a picture of it before you undo it, because not being able to get that back on is very annoying. So you can actually go ahead and pull this wiring harness out just to get it out of your way. Now I'm going to go ahead and start undoing these 10mm bolts. Okay, now that I have all 4 of those bolts out, this bracket here comes right off. Don't lose this, keep it with your bolts. It's very simple, very easy to get to. So now that you've taken all 4 of those out, now you can go down here and take the last 2 out. These ones could be quite a bit tighter, so be prepared for that. Now this tip here could save you quite a bit of time. You don't actually have to take those bolts completely out. You can actually just loosen them and the alternator will slide right out. Okay guys, now I've taken those 2 out, and now this should lift right out. Let's go ahead and pull this hose back. And now, moment of truth, comes right out. Okay guys, so now is the time that if you couldn't get this connector out, you can just go ahead, push down on the connector first, then push the tab in, then you can actually just take it right off. Okay, so now your alternator is completely free. Now you can set this aside and bring it back for the core charge whenever. Now this one here is identical to the last one, except it's new. And here is why you don't have to undo those last couple bolts completely, because they slide in and out right there. So you can kind of plop it on them and then just tighten them down. And these 2 were the 2 to anchor it in. Now we're going to go ahead and plug them all back in. So just take note of how the alternator would actually be sitting and how it loops around like this. So we're going to plug this connector in because we took it off. We're going to hold off on connecting the other one while we install it. That slides right onto the studs there. Make sure that wire isn't pinched. Now what we can do is get this bracket and put it right exactly back, right where we found it. And now we can take the bolts and put them exactly in their place. They're all the same length, so it doesn't really matter exactly which order they go in or if they go back in the same spot. They're all the same length, same thickness, and they're all 10mm. So now that we have the bracket completely aligned, what we can do is go ahead, switch this, and tighten it back down here and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so we got it nice and tight down there. Now what we're going to do is put this belt back over. Try not to disturb the alignment or where it is, and make sure that it goes back on all the pulleys exactly evenly. Okay, so we got that belt back on. Now it's time to get these bolts back on. Now we'll get these all tightened down. You can use a torque wrench if you want. In this case, I'm just going to go by feel. Okay, so now this is on there as tightly as it needs to be. Now it's worth mentioning, actually, I hope you watch this ahead of time, because before you put the alternator back on, you should clean the surface it mounts to, because 9 times out of 10, or even 10 times out of 10, it grounds to the engine block. So it's very important that you clean that. So now all I'm going to do is take the positive terminal lead here, slip it right back over that stud. Okay, put the terminal back on, slide the boot closer. It's worth cleaning this nut too. So now we can take this and just get it right on there very tightly. This will strip out very easily, so I just do it by hand. And now take the boot, the protective cover here. Now we'll get it right over top there. Now it's right back in place. So now what we can do is go ahead and start putting everything back on. So now that's done, we'll go ahead and put this intake on, get it in the right spot. We'll go ahead and put this quick disconnect on and plug in this harness. Make sure it seats fully into the intake. Now put the bolts back in and tighten them down. And now all we're going to do, put the intake back on, fits right into the fender over here. Push it in right there, line it up, push it back in. Now that it's back in, we'll take the air filter, go ahead, clamp it back down, and you're done. Now all that's left to do is test it out. Success. There you have it. Running strong. It used to be where I'd boost it, disconnect the jumper cable, and it would die. Now it stays running. That's how you replace it. And stay tuned if you want to see in the future, and let me know if you do, if you want to see how to diagnose it. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.